conditioner's busted. Spitting out charcoal and mold is disgusting. I dust off the chair and I turn off the air. Now we're sleeping downstairs on the futon, but I don't care. I get to
Hi.
Hi.
So I'm so excited for Driving in Circles. As I have said many times to both of you, it was the first play that I read and thought, oh my God, I have to program this at BPT. And sure enough, here it is in my first season here at BPT. And now you're in rehearsal. Now you're in rehearsal for this show that I have been so excited to have here at Boston Playwrights Theatre. So I thought I'd take advantage of the fact that you're about to go into rehearsal and steal a few moments of your time to chat a little bit about the play, sort of like a pre-show coffee or tea. I have my tea. A pre-show tea chat about what might be helpful for our audiences to know to whet their appetite for Driving in Circles. So first, just introduce yourself and tell me one like boring thing about yourself, because I hate when you tell interesting things about yourself. So I'm Megan Sandberg-Zakian. I use she, her pronouns, and one very boring thing about me is that I am not excited about dandelion chai, and I just discovered this today.
I'm Sam Plattus. I'm directing Driving in Circles. And my boring fact is I am obsessed with my dog. And every photo on my phone for a very long time was of my dog. And now it's about half and half between photos of my dog and photos of my niece, who is 16 months old.
That's not that boring.
I guess it's
now
not that
I want
boring.
to see photos
It's cute.
of your dog,
It is
but
cute.
Okay, accepted.
And your pronouns are they, them.
And my pronouns are they, them. Thank you.
My pronouns are also they, them. I'm Jay. I'm the writer, composer, performer. And a boring fact about me is that I used to really not like peanut butter, and now I think it's kind of okay.
Yeah, that's more in
Yeah.
the vein of what I was looking for. Yeah, thank
It's
you.
kind of okay
Yeah,
in some things.
It's fine. Yeah, great. I won't fight you on that. All right. So, can each of you tell me, as briefly as you like, and whatever it means to you, what Driving in Circles is about?
I think it's a story about growing up. I think it's a story about loneliness and about learning how to let other people in, learning that you're not better off or safer or stronger alone.
Beautiful.
I really like that.
Yeah.
I think for me, it's about finding community and hope anywhere you can and everywhere you can, and that the only thing that can help people is other people.
I love that. And I think one of the things for me that it's about too is how to the experience of the live event of the theater that we can support each other in telling stories as a way of not continuing to experience those stories in our bodies forever. I love that, and you say that very directly, actually. So I'm not inventing this of my own accord, but I love that articulation in the show. And Jay says at the very beginning, essentially, I'm telling you this so that I can maybe stop having physical symptoms, it's just it's a very powerful way to frame it. After you, of course, totally rock out. So there's that too. And I hope that another thing you can do before the show is go on our website and listen to a song from Driving in Circles, which is highly awesome. All right. So Jay, what's the origin story for Driving in Circles? How did it arrive?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because it's autobiographical. I could be like, I've been writing it my whole life. But I think I started trying to write this play in some way around 10 years ago, and I wrote a very different play. I wrote a folk opera that sort of tried to get at telling this same story, but fictionalized and through the language of structure of fairy tale, and with a very different musical idiom, with the idiom of New England folk music. So I wrote this folk opera when I was in acting school and musical theater school. The head of my program was an opera composer, so he was very encouraging of me composing more. So this was my master's thesis. And we workshopped that play a few times. And this is before Sam and I had started working together again. And the director in that piece was someone who I think had a huge influence on Driving in Circles, Meredith Slater. Helped me sort of get at the story the first time I was trying to tell it. Then, in the course of rewriting that play over a few years, sometimes when you're rewriting, you learn like, oh, I actually just need to write a different thing now. I still want to explore these questions. I still want to explore this truth or this part of my own life, but I need to look at it in a different way. So then I took a very, very sharp turn, and started thinking about making a concept album. So I started working on a sort of loosely narrative collection of songs, some of which are still in the show, but there were even more. It was like 18 songs and poems and other things. And I got to work on that in residency at Yaddo, where I recorded a bunch of the demos we have for Driving in Circles. And then as I was working on that and trying to sort of crack the story and crack the structure, I ended up returning to a form that I have really loved for a long time and was always sort of afraid to like touch myself, and that's sort of the form of the solo show, and particularly like the storytelling, confessional or memoir, autobiographical solo show. Mike Birbiglia was a really big influential storyteller for me when I was young. I got to see one of his shows when I was like a 21-year-old living alone in London, and it made me think really differently about theater, even though ostensibly, he was still calling it stand-up comedy at the time. Yeah. And I started wondering what would happen and how the story would change, or how I could tell the story differently if it became really bluntly autobiographical, really, really baldly, this is my story. What if it was live, and what if I could braid monologue in with the songs, twist those things together, what would happen? And so then I started writing the monologues when I was an MFA student at BU in the playwriting program. And we've been developing in that form for a few years now. And I've been lucky to get a lot of support in developing it, both through the BU MFA playwriting program and then also in residency at the New Harmony Project and the Dragon's Egg, and we did a reading at Improv Acadia with one of our favorite people in the world, Bryce Lambert, producing it, and and I feel like I'm forgetting also like steps along the way, but that's the general shape.
Those feel like the big steps.
Yeah.
It really does feel like it's found a very clarion form, and it's cool to hear about. I mean, that's a radical formal journey. Yeah. How many like bodies were in the folk opera when you?
5. It was it was really about like a family learning to talk to each other. It was still very much about sisters, as Driving in Circles is, particularly in its first half in Side A. But it was parents, 2 siblings, and a third character, and then they also doubled as like an ensemble of like
big
spirits
change.
and ghosts, and and it was very much
shift.
The structure of a fairy tale, and very different music. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Cool. Okay. So, Sam, so how's it going in rehearsal?
It's been really great. Jay and I have been working on this show in some form or another for a while, and most of the work has just been the two of us. And it's been really great to step into the rehearsal room and have other people sharing in the story and contributing their ideas and their talents. We have some really incredible collaborators. The two musicians in the show, Zach Fontanez and Jordan Palmer, are both wonderful people and spectacularly talented musicians and performers. And so that's been really great. And I think the big thing for me so far has just been how much fun it is and how much it sort of cracks the whole play open now that we have other people joining us for this journey, which is really great.
And is a funny, flip to what we were just talking about.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
There are more people in the room again.
Went from big to small and now you have a whole team around you, even in this sort of solo form. Although it is an interesting version of a solo form, because you have other people on stage.
I've been thinking about this, about how it's very much, we are playing with, and it's written in the form of a solo show, but as we've been sort of going back and forth on what do you call it now that I'm lucky enough to have some musicians on stage with me, and I'm sort of in my head now calling it a one-band show. One-band show.
I like it.
I like that.
Yeah, and I know, we'll see, I think it'll evolve from this moment. You're in your second week of rehearsal now, to when audience members see it in terms of what it means to have other bodies on stage. I know we've been talking about that a lot, so I'm excited for that evolution too.
Yeah, me too.
So I was at our first rehearsal now a week and a half ago, I was really moved to hear both of you speak about the power of laughter and how laughing at difficult things is not only pleasurable but necessary. And I also loved, I think it was you, Jay, said something like, I'll never think you're laughing at me if you laugh or at something that happened to me, if you're laughing during as I'm, speaking or singing. That kind of permission was I think very beautifully stated in the room. So can you talk a little bit about the humor in the show and what it means to you and what laughter means to you in general? Especially when dealing with a challenging event. Yeah.
Ariel Angel, who's the editor of Jewish Currents, wrote a really beautiful essay for the magazine that I've been thinking about a lot in developing the show just over the last year. The essay is called Beyond Grievance. And she's asking how we move beyond the pain point of trauma, how we move beyond the impulse to freeze our trauma and look at it and ask other people to look at it and think that that's enough. How we move beyond the idea that healing will somehow negate or undermine or render our suffering meaningless or make us forget. She says, and I hope I get somewhere close to her actual words, but she says to reach for mourning, to allow our pain to be neither repressed nor sanctified, but to be released, can be to move beyond a solipsistic victimhood and to glimpse this world-building power, and this world-building power being our collective power, our collective force when we allow our pain to connect us to other people in pain, when we are able to release our pain together and dare to imagine a less painful world. And for me, that release is in laughter. Laughter is a release of tension. It is a release of pressure. It is literally a relief. And I think there's nothing in the world like laughing in a room full of people.
Yeah. It's beautiful.
I love that.
Yeah. And you remind me, sorry, just jumping in quickly to say, you're reminding me too of why I'm so excited that we have a post-show conversation on what makes a Jewish play.
Yes.
Because you're really getting at, the play is not an exploration of religious or cultural Jewishness, but you're getting at some of what the answer to that is, I think.
Yes.
This one is beautiful.
And I now don't remember if you can edit this out if I did. I don't remember if I mentioned that I also got to develop this show with the New Jewish Culture Fellowship, which I think shaped a lot of my thinking around the play and about the role of laughter in the play. I think we both feel, in large part as Jewish artists, that sort of a core value we have is that you have to be able to laugh at difficult things. Yeah. One of my favorite films of all time, one of the funniest films I've ever seen in my life is To Be or Not to Be, which was made by a Jewish artist so immediately after the trauma of the Holocaust and immediately giving us permission to laugh together at this almost this thing that is not, how do we talk about it and how can we articulate it in any way? Maybe one way is to find some way to let out relief and pressure together.
Yeah. I also think something that I've been thinking about a lot is the role that laughter can play in a rehearsal room, too, where just giving everybody the permission to laugh and to not take themselves too seriously, even though that this piece deals with a lot of very serious things, that at no point do we have to take it too seriously. Yeah. We have permission to be silly, to make mistakes, to have fun. I think that's a really powerful, useful tool in a rehearsal room. And I think it translates into performance, because the more fun that we can find, that the performers can find in the performing of this piece, the more the audience will be given permission to have a good time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed that. When I was watching the run through this weekend, I was like, oh, the moments where y'all are like, and it's such a beautiful ability to hold two things at once. It's like y'all are like rocking out, clearly having a great time playing the music and enjoying the virtuosity and the kind of release in a way also of the musical, the physiological experience of the music, and the content of what you're singing about is like devastating, and somehow it manages to be. And I'm so excited to have audiences to hear what other people's reaction is to this. But my reaction is you're getting that, you're like, oh, this is so good, you're so into it, like, oh shit. But yeah, and so it's a very it gets in your body too as an audience member. I love that.
I think it's what holds the pieces of the play together is this sense of release, because I think music serves a really similar function. I think it served a really similar function in my life. I think playing music growing up saved my life. I think playing trombone growing up and singing taught me how to breathe.
Was trombone your first?
Yes, I did not know that. I played piano first technically, but I got fired from piano lessons.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I'm still a terrible pianist, but I did play trombone for a long time, starting when I was 10.
Wow.
Yeah. Huh. So yeah, and I think just having that release and learning how to breathe and how to take in air when it might be hard is something that really
and make
truly
noise.
saved my life. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and to be able to
you talk about that in the show, yeah.
To be able to make noise. Yeah. I think singing with a group of people is pretty close to laughing with a group of people. Those are two pretty great things.
Oh, I'm so happy I know this about trombone and getting fired from piano. I'll be using this information. All right, so let's close with one thing that each of you wants the audience to know before they come to the show.
I want the audience to know that I personally am sometimes intimidated by theater that deals with heavy subject material, or even just very serious subject material. And I want the audience to know that this show is going to be really fun. It's going to be really funny. And I hope that we're going to take really good care of our audience. That is a big goal of ours. And I truly believe that the audience will feel very taken care of in this show. And I'm excited to share it with all of them.
Thank you.
I think the thing I want them most to know is just how many wonderful, incredible people, and you talked about this a little already, but how many wonderful and talented people's work is going into this show, even as it's billed as a solo-ish show or semi-solo show or whatever it is, one-band show. Just how many wonderful, talented people we have working on it, and how many talented people's work they're going to see up on the stage. We have an incredible team of designers, and we have an incredible team in the rehearsal room. Our two musicians are, you already said they're phenomenally talented musicians. They're also like just two of the most magnetic performers I've ever seen in my life, one of whom I've been working with for many years, and one of whom this is sort of my first time, and it's been wonderful. And we have like an incredible stand-up comic as our associate director. It's very much it's a really rewarding theater creating experience where this really is like a team of people making a thing happen that for a long time was just an idea in my head.
I think what you all are creating is incredible. I'm so proud that it's here at Boston Playwrights Theatre, and I can't wait for all of you to come and see it. So come and see it. Let us know what you think. And thank you, Jay and Sam, for chatting with me. Have a great rehearsal today.
Thank you, Megan.
I'm waking up.